sometimes communication students say, like, how does what we do in our classes relate to other careers? And so I think that one of the powerful things about Kirby's story is how he made that connection and realized that in an industry like HVAC, working in like with construction and things like that, how essential communication skills are, and recognizing your life's mission and purpose and how that can drive you to be more successful. So that's what he's going to share us today, his Lion Skills Essentials. So thank you.
Yeah, so first thing off, I'm grateful to be able to speak here today. So my name's Kirby Lee, and interestingly enough, I did not have any public speaking skills prior to probably about 2 years ago. I was afraid to be in front of people, and the thought of like even giving this presentation would have given me the heebie-jeebies, and I would have run for the hills. So that's kind of, I almost kind of laugh seeing myself looking at this camera right now. So in any case, my background is I went through a lot of parts of my life going through, and you know, I think of my life kind of like a car going on the interstate. So, you know, a car builds up the speed, you know, to get to what, 75 miles an hour or whatever, and then once you get on the interstate, you're really not making a lot of major decisions while you're on the interstate, right? There's no red lights, most traffic is usually high speed. I mean, your car is maybe shifting an inch or two here and there. And so my career was like that too. So I did a lot of things. In my career, I escalated my career, my developing certain skills, and was getting on the interstate highway. And so an interesting thing talking with somebody about that concept, and I call it flatlining. And so basically the idea of flatlining is that you get on the interstate and you don't know how to get off. And so what happens is a lot of people that either get to the middle part of their careers or specifically change careers and to do something completely different, there's a major struggle that happens during that time. And one of the things that I realized, and it's interesting to communicate because this happened in June of 2019, was that I didn't have a mission or purpose behind why I was doing all of this. Like I knew, okay, I want to be a principal at an engineering firm. Okay, well, why do you want to be a principal? I honestly didn't know. I was like, well, okay, I want to go to engineering school. I want to do all of these things. So it's like I was checking all the boxes, like getting the car to the interstate highway, right? You know, getting onto the ramp is easy, right? You know what you need to do. You need to accelerate. You need to check the lanes. And then once you're there, now you're not really thinking anymore. And so that's where the concept of flatlining, I kind of call that, is because of, people get there and now they don't know what to do when they're there. And so that's where like this presentation was built from, that the first step of the journey where I started this, when I realized in 2019 I had flatlined and I didn't know what to do. And so a short story behind it was that I was working for the government. I have done lots of different roles in the industry. My father was an HVAC contractor. I did practice engineering, and that was how I met Matt, Tracy's husband. And then I worked as an owner's representative for the government, doing completely different style of work. Well, at that training, there was this, the Stephen Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So there was a 3-day training. So by the way, this is what your government tax dollars pay for, by the way. So surprise. They basically went through all the process of the Stephen Covey 7 Habits system. And at the very end of that training, they said you need to have a mission statement and a purpose behind how you're going to implement these things in your life going forward. So that was the checkpoint, and that was actually when all of this was born. So because I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't really know what my mission and purpose is. I just knew I wanted these things. So in any case, that was where all of this started. So the process that happened during that time was really interesting because I really didn't have a name for any of the stuff I'm describing to you. It was all just, hey, I'm going through this process. I didn't really know how to explain it. And this is while my wife and my little one were in Pennsylvania going to do family time with the grandparents. So I'm sitting here in my home for an entire week in Cary, North Carolina, figuring out how I'm going to rebuild my life from the ground up. And so the first thing that I thought of was, well, let the lion out of the cage. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth in terms of that purpose statement. So I started looking up lion quotes, and then I found this speech called The Lion Attitude. And the lion attitude is actually where I built my entire mission and purpose, because I knew that when I heard the words that came out of the speech, I knew immediately what it was, and I knew that I needed to be different to make all those things happen. So I described that process as called the reinvention. So a reinvention means that you get the chance to rebuild every single thing that you've gone through in your life and throw it all away and start over the way you want it to. So it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It makes no difference. It doesn't even matter what happened 2 hours ago. So any person can rebuild themselves for any reason. No, it doesn't have to ask anybody permission, and do it on the spot if they wanted to. And so that really starts at the beginning. And so I'm here to illustrate today for this presentation that mission and purpose is the most important thing that you can do in your life. But today is your rock bottom moment. This is going to be the lowest day. If you decide today is the day you're going to make your life different, today is going to be the worst day that you've had. And it will be the day that is the lowest, and there will be everything will be better from this day forward, but I can't tell you it's going to be fun, and I can't tell you it's going to be easy, and it's going to get a little muddy and nasty. But in any case, this is the worst day, and you can only go up from the worst day, right? So, at least I haven't seen one that has gone backwards yet. So the neat thing is like I illustrate, you can decide any moment in time that you want your life to be different. No one is telling you, well, Tracy, this is the great life you had, so I guess you're just stuck with it. No one goes around saying that, right? If you want your life to be different, make it different. So you don't have to wait for me to do that, and you don't have to ask anybody's permission to do that. You can just do it. So this reinvention process that's the rebirth of starting over requires you to give up everything that you've known to start and build other things that you want, because you have to let go of all these things that you believe in for the things and the person that you want to be to come to the surface, right? You can't get something without giving up something. And that works in life, that works in school, that works professionally. Sorry, there's no magic way to add something and not give up something. At least I haven't seen it yet. So, but maybe you guys could invent something that does that. So, I keep mentioning, I mentioned this again, that you will be knocked down repeatedly during this beginning part of the process. This will be a struggle. There will be some mental struggles that you will face, and there will be some days that you would not wish what you are going through on your worst enemy. But I emphasize to you, if you are serious about rebuilding yourself from the ground up, you will be knocked down, but don't let yourself be knocked out. And the people that keep getting up repeatedly after being knocked down are the ones that are going to actually make it. So, there are 4 steps in what I call developing and reinventing yourself to finding your mission and purpose. So the first step is the process of finding your purpose statement, which is what I described actually, which was born from this statement right here. And then the next steps are to walk through a mission statement discovery, because there has to be something that is so powerful and so strong that you are willing to cut your arm off for it. And because if you're not willing to do that, then it's not strong enough. And you have to be able to say it on your worst days. So the next thing is that you have to brand and embody that mission every day, and people have to look at you and feel it and see it. Because otherwise, if they don't feel it and see it, then it's not your mission. And then now, okay, you've done all these great things, right? So now you kind of want to be around people that support your mission, right? At least, so this reinvention is going to mean that you may be letting go of a lot of people to do that. You may be letting go of a family. You may let go of everything. Because if it's something that you want really bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. So for some people, that's really tough, because they've been around their family their whole life, and then all of a sudden they realize that that their family doesn't align with their mission, and they have to let them go. So Hopefully you're never in that situation, but you may be, and I don't know. So we'll see. So that's why I kind of make this little interesting statement that if you look around the people in your circle and you don't get inspired, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. So, and by the way, lions don't really do well in cages. So let's walk through the first step. So first off, I'll change up my presentation a little bit. Typically I take questions at the end, but I'll use each of the steps to stop for questions. What questions do you have about what I've described to you so far, and is there anything that I need to cover about anything prior to step one? All right. So I guess the first step is we should find our purpose, right? Since it's apparently not going to teleport itself to us, and we haven't found a machine that can do that. So this is actually kind of born from a speech called Purpose, and it's something that's in my playlist. It was one of the, after I was listening to the speech, The Line Attitude, repeatedly for almost a year and a half straight, I was starting to listen to other stuff as part of my playlist too. I call it my walking playlist, which ironically I have it on my phone right now. And one of these speeches gets I say about 6 or 7 speeches in, and so it was something that was really powerful, and it was something actually during my time when our professional organization ASHRAE, I had completed a half of a year of a term running that team. And then this was the process in which I was completing a full year afterwards, because the way it worked is since a guy left, I finished his term and then started my own. So all of this took place the first week before I was going to start my full term, running a team of 17 people for a $100,000 nonprofit organization that any of them could walk away and say, you know what, Kirby, I don't want to work with you, screw you, I'm out of here. They could all do it. So I wanted to have a purpose behind what we did that year. And so that mission and purpose behind myself was something I was going to translate into building a team for an entire year. So the neat thing about purpose is that I know that this is going to sound like a surprise, but there are a lot of people that face challenges in their life. They, stuff that, like we say, you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. But I know that this is going to be a surprise, but there is actually people that have more intelligence than you. I know, surprise, we're all shocked here. There are also people that have more opportunities than you. And there's people that have more money than you. I know, surprise. There's also people that have more passion than you. But you know what? What's interesting behind all that? Someone's already done what you want to do. This isn't something, we're not inventing something that hasn't been done before. And by the way, if this is the first time you've done it, I'd like to be your agent. I'll take 10%. So, but I'm surprised, I don't think anybody's invented this from scratch yet. So we're not doing anything revolutionary here. So no one is getting born into all of these things, right? Having purpose and a mission is not a result of your success. It's not a result of your wealth. It's not a result of any amounts of work that you have. So no one's getting born into that. You have to build that from scratch, unless you're the trust fund guy on the yacht. Sorry, your 1 in a billion chance of that happening apparently didn't work out for me. So the neat thing about purpose is that people that have this, they go to levels that they've never been before. And they don't care about all these other people. That there are people that have that have more of these things, that if you have purpose, you'll be all of these people. And so that's what's neat about this, is that in this speech actually there's this photo here which I think is really powerful, and it tells you there's nothing more powerful than a person with purpose. And so so that's why having a purpose and mission is important, is because it will allow you to go to levels that you've never been, or even levels you've even dreamed of, because you are willing to do anything it takes to make something happen. And when you have that kind of mission, you are unbreakable. This is exactly, I use this analogies of how lions hunt, because obviously my mission was born on lion traits. So lions are relentless hunters. They hunt in the wild. When they wake up, their sole purpose is to hunt. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about if it's raining. They don't care about if there's 80 gazelles out there or if there's 2 gazelles. They don't care what the pride's doing. Their goal when they wake up is to do nothing but hunt. And that's all they do, and they keep hunting until they get what they want. And then after they get what they want, then they sleep for 20 hours. Sorry, that's a surprise. But during those 4 hours that a lion is up, they are the most relentless, fierce and ferocious apex hunters. There is no other animal that can do that. So that's what having that kind of purpose. You want to have the same kind of mission that a lion has hunting for an animal when it wakes up. So this is what having purpose also allows you to get through struggles when things don't go well, right? Because I know this is going to be a surprise. Things don't go always according to plan. Surprise. So you've got to have some mental fortitude to get through situations when they don't go well. And, and then how do you respond to those situations? That's what really matters, right? It's not getting knocked down, right? You're trying to get back up every single time that it happens. And in some cases, maybe laughing in somebody's face while you're doing it. So the successful people in life have a very clear purpose and vision of what they're doing. They know exactly what they want, they know why they want it, and they will be willing to do anything it takes to do it. And that's why it's kind of interesting, like from a, that 85 to 87% of millionaires are all self-made. Like they didn't wake up one day, trust fund baby on a yacht saying, well, Kirby, I was bored today, so I gave you a couple of million in your bank account. I rolled the dice today. Here's how I ran the numbers to figure out what you're going to get. So you have it. What that tells me is that people can build anything they want from scratch. Now, how long it takes to build that? What paths you have to take to build that? May be different. But the point is you can get there. So, what questions do we have about finding your mission and purpose?
I have a question.
Sure.
So what the communication help someone to be able to find a purpose?
I can't understand.
What the communication help for this just to find the purpose? What the important of it?
Yeah, so the reason why communication related to purpose is important is because people with a purpose know what they want. Sometimes they don't even know how to communicate it. And honestly, during this time, for me, I did not know how to communicate what it was. And it probably showed. Because I just knew that I believed in the 5 words, courage, strength, bravery, leadership, and heart. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what it was going to result into. But I knew that I needed to be doing those 5 things every day, regardless of whether I was having a good day, bad day, neutral day, whatever it was. So that type of communication, I had to figure out how to communicate differently. And if you have a purpose to do that, I can tell you, I would outwork you, I would run circles around you, and I wouldn't even blink an eye doing it. So if you want something bad enough and you have a mission behind you to do it, you'll be unbreakable. Lions do not care about whether they missed their hunt for the day or not. They wake up the next day and they do the exact same thing. And they do not care what happened. They don't care whether they got 6 gazelles, none gazelles, whatever else. Their goal is to complete their mission. And they will do anything it takes to do that. Does that answer?
Yes.
Okay. So, purpose is important, right? So now let's talk about the mission statement, right? This is what I described while I was working for the government that our taxpayer dollars were paying for. So, your journey to find this statement comes from several steps. And here are the things that I recommend based on my own personal experience of finding these things, is that you need to explore things that resonate with you. Sometimes that could be listening to speeches, sometimes that could be listening to music, sometimes that could be like the speech, don't worry, be happy. If that's your mission and you believe in it and you're willing to cut your arm off for it, then sure, don't worry, be happy can be it if that's what you really want. So here's what I recommend, and this is exactly what happened in that last week of June in 2019. I sat in my house in silence. I was not, watching, what happened on Oprah Winfrey that day, or what was going on the NBA Finals, or anything else. I was solely focused on understanding and finding something that resonated with me so strongly that I would give everything for it. So no, I don't believe you're going to do that listening to radio or TV. I mean, you could be one of those people that break the odds, but I suspect that's probably not going to happen, unless there's some infomercial out there that inspires you and your mission and purpose comes out of that. So if you do, let me know. So this is extended time. Some people, it's kind of interesting. Aaron Rodgers recently, big NFL football player, he actually said, I was going on a darkness retreat for 4 days to figure out whether I was going to play in the NFL for the next however many years. And so it's kind of interesting that I heard that recently, and the first thing I thought of was like, well, that's kind of what I did. So you really need to spend some time by yourself, not with your little one screaming at you, or the missus saying you haven't taken out the trash, or your husband saying, why can't you call about, setting up gymnastics class for our little one? So you have to spend some really personal and deep alone time. And for some people, that scares them. Like, I mean, I can't remember the last time they were alone. It could have been like 20 years. But in any case, that alone time really allows you to dig deep and find something is going to come out of that process. I have no idea what, but you will find something. And how long it takes, I have no idea. But I know that in my case, I heard that line attitude speech the first day driving home the last week of June. And I spent my entire week in, we'll call it darkness, hanging at the house, sifting through speeches, coming up with statements, coming up with something that I believe so strongly that I was willing to die for it. So there's something out there that's going to inspire you. So I recommend you listening to motivational speakers or speeches. I mean, if listening to Madonna allows you to get your mission and purpose, I mean, so be it. Didn't work for me, but hey, you can try that. But generally speaking, like a lot of that stuff that you listen to doesn't really change your future. You can't say, well, that New Kids on the Block song changed everything. I became a multi-billionaire because I listened to Hanging Tough. So at least I haven't seen one of those yet, so you never know. I'd say motivational speakers or speeches, there's tons of them out there. Eric Thomas is one of my favorites. He's kind of a very passionate, fiery person. Neat brief history about him. He lived in trash cans in abandoned buildings, and it took him 12 years to get a 4-year degree. And he did ultimately end up with a PhD. He ended up working at Michigan State doing admissions for motivating kids that didn't think that they were going to have anything in their life to help them so that they could go to college or do anything else. And this whole thing became born from Eric Thomas and his speeches. And now every NBA, NFL, NHL team wants to hear Eric Thomas yell at people and tell them, no, you need to freaking get off your lazy bleep and do something for yourself. So that's kind of my style. So I didn't know of Eric Thomas then, but just an example of that. So those speeches and speakers will accelerate the process. And so the line attitude came from a site called Fearless Motivation. There is 2,000 speeches on there that you could spend your entire rest of your life listening to everything that's on there, and you'd probably still not hear everything. No, that's more of the Eric Thomas style speeches. Intense, fiery. Imagine like Southern football coach yelling in your face, And then there's Fearless Soul, which is a companion site that's a little bit more softer, serene. We'll call it Sunday morning church kind of stuff. Hey, here's what you need to do to be a little better. So if that's your style, you can listen to that. So ironically, some of the stuff that inspired me came from both. So kind of interesting. So I promise you, if you do these things, something is going to come out. I do not know what, and I have no clue how long it'll take you to find it. But if you're spending this intentional amount of time alone, in darkness, you will find it. And when you find it, you'll never forget it, I promise you. So your mission statement is going to come out of this. And I can tell you firsthand, you'll never forget that day. Never. I can vividly describe to you every single moment of that day that happened to the second. I mean, coming home, 5:40, getting on Davis Drive. Where was it on Davis Drive that I started listening to it? Right between the Cary and Morrisville border. because I was like, oh, last stretch of it, I'll put this in and see what it is. I'm kind of curious. Because I had looked it up earlier in the day, while I was working, in quotation marks. So you'll never forget that day. I remember that day. I don't remember I remember it's the first day that Tara and Maddie left, to go hang out in Pennsylvania with the grandparents. And I even remember like pulling over into a parking lot. It was so powerful. I uttered the words courage, strength, bravery, leadership, and heart the second I heard it. And then I listened to it the rest of the time. I was on almost relentlessly the entire week while I was at home. So this is what I was talking about. This was born, my mission and purpose was born from listening to that speech. This is actually something that I got made in December of 2020, December 2019, on my wall, and it's actually sitting in my home office. And this is my mission. I want to be able to see this every day. I want to be able to breathe this every day. I want to know that even on my worst days, that this is the only thing that I care about. And that I'm going to do everything it takes to focus on that and nothing else. Now, I'm not no super crazy, person that does this all perfectly, by the way. I know this is a surprise, but I'm a mortal human being. So, I know. Big shocker. So, don't do it perfectly. This is an important step. You want to celebrate this because this is a moment that you will never forget, and your reinvention begins when you have this. So, this is something that you get to now say you're a new person, and now you're never going to go back to whoever that person was that you let go of, right? So what questions do we have about this part? Yes, sir.
What was the trigger?
The trigger was, I can't explain exactly what happened. My role with the government was changing. A new director came in after another one had been fired for doing naughty stuff, basically. And basically she came in and said, I want you to be a construction manager. I can come here to be a construction manager. That freaking sucks. I don't want to do that. It's like, well, I know more about HVAC than you, and I'm going to do all this stuff. It's like, well, that's a super stupid thing, but go ahead, try that. So that was when I knew that something had to be different. I didn't know why, but I knew that something had to be different. And how it got to all this, I can't even explain that to you. But there's some trigger where you realize, like, you're sitting on the interstate, and you're like, I need to get off the highway. I need to get off the highway. And you're like, I can't get off the highway. So, because, that process of getting off the highway involves some actual thinking, right? You have to slow down. You have to look carefully so you don't wreck somebody. Make sure that you're not, crashing on the exit ramp, right? Trying to do all that. And then actually stopping at the stoplight, hopefully, or stop sign, and then figuring out what your next moves are, right? So this process right now was the same process of getting on the exit ramp. I had to get off the ramp. I have to get off the highway because I was flatlining. Any other questions? So mission, branding, and embodiment. The reason why this step is you found your purpose, you found your mission, and now you got to own it. So, because otherwise, if you're not doing this, it's great, there's a name for that concept. It's called a wish, and wishes don't come true. So this is actually something that I had made, actually, and by the way, I did not spend a lot of money doing that. I didn't go, this wasn't my purpose and mission was to develop these keychains, to sell them for X number of dollars. But I needed something that I could carry with me every day that had my mission and purpose on me. And so this was something I created. It was on reminderband.com. They were silicone little tags and cost about $1 a piece. I bought about 20 of them, basically. So I spent $20 here. So this is kind of an example. It's actually, there's one sitting over on my keychain at the moment. I'm going to see if I still have it. Is it still there? I believe it is. Yes, it is. Because I wouldn't say that I believe these things if it wasn't sitting here on my keychain right now. So this is the keychain, and that's the stuff. That's what it is. So, your mission statement, the goal behind it is something that you believe with so fiercely that you would be willing to cut your own arm off for it. And you have to have no hesitation doing this. I would say like your ultimate moment is if you can do it on your worst day, when all kinds of disastrous stuff have happened. Some maybe because of things you could control, Some may be things you probably didn't control. No. But if on that day you can say your mission, then you really believe it. So your goal is to have this with no hesitation. So I recommend investing in like low cost personalized stuff. Don't go spending $1 billion on all of your stuff unless you were one of those trust fund people that got handed some random amounts of money because the guy was bored on his yacht. So you need to be focused on something that reminds you every day what your mission and purpose is. So there are going to be some very difficult moments during mission and purpose reinvention, having your mission statement, and having this. Ironically, I've had some rough patches even recently. I'm human just like you. But when you know what your mission and purpose is, that gets you out of those moments. And you might have a low point, but it's not going to be for weeks or months, or or for some people it could be the rest of their life, depending on what it is. So those difficult moments are your test. They want to find out how strong do you believe in your mission. So that's kind of the example. And you're going to have low times, like I've described, but your goal behind this is sometimes you may have to be even repeating to yourself while you're not wanting to choke the living bleep out of somebody, for either how they communicate or decisions they make or decisions you make. You might be uttering this under your breath while you're saying this to keep yourself, always aligned and focused with the things that you believe in. And if you believe in it enough, you're capable of doing that. So, like I said, I recommend even speaking it out loud during your worst times, which ironically, some of that was this morning. So this is so important that you take pride of this, that you getting to this point is not easy. There are probably, in the normal world, I understand that 3% of the world sets goals. From what I've listened to many motivational speeches, 3%. 3%. So kind of like doing this is the process of how you can create goals, right? Because this is a lot bigger than a goal. Because this is something that you're going to follow for the rest of your life. But take pride of this, because this is something that you own. It's your mission. It's not someone else's. And no one paid me for my mission. Sorry, no, I know that didn't happen. So, and do not let any person's opinion affect that. You always have to stay focused on your mission. You always have to be focused on what you believe. You always need to be focused on the next step also, which is aligning yourself with people that support it, right? So here's a fun little story. So you have 10 people in a room with COVID, and a person that doesn't have COVID come in the room. What do you think happens? They get COVID. Surprise, I know. So your mission is very similar to people having COVID. So if you don't believe in having COVID, I don't know about you, but I probably wouldn't hang around with people that have COVID, right? You want to align and have yourself supported by people that want to be a part of your mission and want to do the same things together, right? So there's this kind of lion stage of lions only spend their time with other lions, right? You never see lions hanging around other animals, and there's a reason why. It's because in the wild, the only time lions are around other animals is when they're the target and they're food. So lions don't waste their time with other things that don't represent them, right? They don't need it. They don't want it. They know what their mission is. And if this giraffe over here doesn't have the same mission, then I don't need the giraffe. So that's what alignment is important. So I obviously reference that. Surround yourself with people that are on the same mission. So that's kind of the purpose. Lions only spend time with other lions, right? No, at least I haven't seen one hanging around other animals that don't eat them, at least. Everything that you do affects your future. Related to who you spend your time with, the books you read, the people you hang out with, what's on the listen to on the radio, all of it. It all affects your future. Now, there are some people that say, well, the various things you do will affect you 5 years from the future. And there's actually a great speech about this. But what they don't tell you, and the speech emphasizes, will say, well, the books you read will affect your future, right? Well, guess what? It's more than just books. It's people. It's music you listen to, the opinions you believe, your thoughts. All of that stuff affects your future, all of it. It's not just one thing, it's all of it. And so, once again, if you spend your time around garbage drivers and you want to be a billionaire, do you think that's going to work really well? If you really want to be a billionaire, unless you want to be the billionaire of waste management, but you can't sit there and say, okay, I really believe that I'm going to be a lawyer and I'm going to spend my time around people that are high school dropouts that hate law. So how well do you think that's going to work out? So this is something I created a concept, and some people use this terminology. It's called total responsibility. So I know that this is a surprise, and some people really don't like hearing this, but I really don't care, is that you are responsible for everything that's in your future. You're responsible for all your decisions. You're responsible for all your actions. You're responsible for all the things you do, people you hang out with, books you read, opinions you believe. You are responsible for all of it. No one pointed a gun to you and said, oh, hey guys, this is what I really think you should do. They could tell you that, but it's your choice whether you want to believe it, right? So like the great example of total responsibility comes from, here's a great thing. So we all like hanging out at the bars late at night, right? No? Hey, it's a great time, hang out, we're all relaxing, drinking. What could go wrong, right? Nothing could go wrong. We're just having a blast. Well, at 2 a.m., you walk out of the bar and someone robs you. And you're like, well, man, it's so irresponsible. This guy robbed me. It's his fault. I should have never lost my wallet. It's always so the point of this is once again, you're victim blaming someone else. You're not taking responsibility for your actions. So here's what total responsibility sounds like to that. So are you really sure you made all the perfect decisions in that moment and did everything right to play a part in you accidentally getting robbed at 2 a.m. at a bar? Can anyone say that they made a perfect, flawless decision-making process to get to this point, right? No, you are responsible. Now, that doesn't mean you're criminally responsible, but that means you're responsible. So every decision you make and everything you do is a reflection of that. So like if I'm talking with Tracy today and some conversation doesn't go well, I don't say, well, Tracy didn't do this right? I can say, what could I have done better about how I communicated to have improved that conversation? How could I have communicated differently? What decisions could I have made? What dialogue could I have used? Maybe Tracy did play a part in that. I don't know. Could have. Of course, she can say the same thing too. She can say, well, maybe I could have communicated differently. That's what total responsibility is when you're asking these questions. What could I have done to be better in this situation? What could I learn from this? How could I be better? And I know that this is a surprise, but most people don't take responsibility for their life. And so guess what? There's a name for people that don't take total responsibility. It's called a sheep. The sheep run around, do whatever they're told, and if they all jump off the cliff, then that's what they do. Sheep are the equivalent of being on the interstate highway that don't know how to get off. And sheep are flatliners. So, if in the event you are surrounded with those type of people with COVID, and you don't want to have COVID, you might want to be hanging out by yourself. And actually what's interesting to share is I actually had to eliminate my entire circle to do this. I eliminated every single thing related to it. I changed everything. I had to. Because clearly the people that I'm hanging around with wasn't working. It wasn't working. The things I was listening to wasn't working. Nothing was working. So I had to change it all. And that was very hard. So you obviously need to spend continuous time reviewing your circle and seeing making sure that you're always in alignment with things, because things change, people change, circumstances happen, sorry, I know this is a surprise. Life is not a constant thing. So someone that's in your circle now may not need to be in your circle later because like you're trying to get better right now, and so your circle may need to get better to reflect that, right? So someone that maybe started with you on your first steps of the journey may not be the people in the very last steps. So you just need to continuously spend time reviewing your circle and making sure that that people align with your goals and mission, right? So if someone if you want to be a lawyer and you're hanging around with somebody in law school and they're all gung ho about being a lawyer, and then they wake up one day and say, you know what, Kirby, I've decided I want to be a dentist. Well, are you really still going to spend time with them, working on your mission of being in law school around someone that has basically told you, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore, I want to be a dentist? I mean, maybe, to a certain extent, but they don't support your goals and mission anymore. They're taking a different path that they believe is in alignment for them, and you need to take what's in alignment for you. So that's where I'm illustrating that people are going to come and go in the circle as you do this reinvention, as you evolve your mission and purpose. It's never going to change, but small little nuances of how it goes will be different. So that's kind of important. So back to that speech. You are the product of the top five people in your life. And if you don't like what's going on, then change it. So, is there anyone that is willing to openly share how happy is someone in this room about the top five people that they have in their life? Because you're the average of the top five people you spend their time with. How many people can raise their hand right now and say that you're happy with the top five people you have? Okay. And that's okay if the answer is no. Because if the answer is no, guess what? You have to do something about it. And no one else is going to do that for you. You have to do that. That's what total responsibility is. So the next step of this process is I'm going to describe exactly what it took when illustrating this, how this affected me. So June 2019, this is when the purpose came from working on my time working for the government that I described. I started looking up line quotes that last week of June. I listened to the line attitude, just on fearless motivation. And then that was when my reinvention began. I had no idea that it would lead to sitting in this room today, to be honest. I probably would have laughed at myself, saying, what the heck, you actually want to speak about this? Are you nuts? So then I started listening to lots of speeches, because I quit listening to the radio. Like I didn't care about, I used to listen to sports talk radio all the time. Sorry, I can't remember the last time I listened to sports talk radio. It doesn't affect my future. I don't care what's happening with NC State's basketball and how they blew some call against Duke or something like that. That doesn't really change my future. Then that was when I created that poster artwork, because that's part of the branding and embodiment. That was also when I bought what sits on that keychain. And then I created a startup routine, right? So I've got this great system, right, of what my mission was, why I believe in it, and how I'm going to use it going forward. Well, the next step in the process actually was to create a startup routine so that my mornings were doing all the right things to take care of myself in the morning so that I could focus on my mission. Because you have to be your best self to go after your mission. So, and by the way, most billionaires actually have a startup routine. They don't wake up and say, okay, I've decided to do this merger. Here you go, let's do it. They have their own mental self-care process to take care of themselves so that they can be their best for other people. Then after that, I created yearly goals related to the 5 line attributes. And after that, then I created a system to do tracking and accountability based on those items. So we're talking about the goals. 3% of the world sets goals. 3%. Just setting a goal makes you better than 97% of the people out there. Now, it would be much better if you actually did something. Setting the goal is great, but you actually got to do something to actually make it happen. Sorry, it doesn't do itself. We haven't found that yet. Maybe one day we'll figure that out. And I'll be your agent for it. So that was my mission. Those are the 5 things that I believe. These are the 5 things that I would cut my arm off for. These are the 5 things I would give my life for. These are the 5 things that I will go into my grave, and it will be on my gravestone. So I created this nice logo as a representation of my mission. In addition to my full-time job, I actually created a business related to my mission. And so that was how Line Attitude Coaching was born, because it was meant for people that struggling, middle level people that were flatlining, that didn't have a mission and purpose. So, and then you can't say that you believe something if you don't have it on, if you're not wearing it. So I had those made. So I am very grateful for your time. This is actually a neat little demonstration of this. Is that I was 245 pounds that day in June. That was Father's Day, about a week prior to when Tara and Maddie left. And then this is me keeping weight off for over 4 years, for the first time ever in my entire life. I actually gained 100 pounds and lost it three times. The time then was when I kept it all off, which is today. So that was obviously one of the pieces of my mission and part of the goals. And so I leave you guys with this great quote, which is one of my favorites. It says, "The greatest fear in the world is the opinion of others. And the moment you are afraid of the crowd or unafraid of the crowd, you are no longer a sheep. You will become a lion. A great roar arises in your heart, and it's the roar of freedom." Lions are free animals. They don't wait and ask for other people's opinions about what they do, and they do their best when they're out in the wild. And that's what makes them the apex predator of all the world, and why other animals do what they do. So, So I am grateful to get to present this to you. I'd love to know what I can do to help you, and I would love to know what questions, comments, or feedback you have.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us like a story or an example of an interaction you had prior to your mission statement, how you would have handled it, that mission statement, so then you now handle it in a different way? Right?
Ironically, that was this morning. So I was telling Tracy there was someone I was dealing with that I felt like was showing very low emotional intelligence, which ironically was something that was born from my mission. Once I had the mission, learning concepts like emotional intelligence was easy, because I was like, I know why I'm learning emotional intelligence, and I'm going to learn it better than anyone else out there because I knew why I was doing it. So, for example, 4 years ago, I would have blasted that person. Been upset, knew that, I probably would have felt awful afterwards about it, but I probably wouldn't have cared, and not been self-aware enough to know that something wasn't right. This person actually tried to call me while I was on the way here. I did pick up the phone while I was upset and said, "I can't talk to you right now." And of course, the first thing that they said, which I thought they say, "Well, you didn't have to answer the phone," which I was like, okay, that's not really good emotional intelligence. So, but I did not say anything else. I just hung up the phone. So that just literally happened 2 hours ago. So, but yes, I probably would have ripped them to shreds like a lion would have. Because lions, while lions are neat, because one of the things that they possess that no other animals has, they have the ability to connect with other animals, with other lions in the wild, and they are very tight together. Like female lions do 90% of the hunting for the pride. And male lions, they spend 10% of their little bit of time when they're not hunting, which is not much. They protect the pride from other animals that try to attack the small cubs while they're hunting, like hyenas or other kind of animals. So I just use hyenas because of the Lion King. So lionesses actually do 90% of the hunting. They hunt in teams. They have a flawless, precise method of how they hunt. They actually usually hunt at night because they don't want an animal to see them. And they can actually run up to 50 miles an hour. By the time a target sees a lion, it's already over. The lion's already killed it and probably ripped it to shreds. So lions have this unique ability to do things that no other animal in the wild can do, from a pure strength, pure brute force thing. But then they have the ability to connect with other lions in a way that there is no animal that can do that. Not even great white sharks or whatever. They don't bond. Great white sharks don't bond with other great white sharks. They actually fight over stuff, and I think sometimes they eat each other in some cases. So, What other questions do we have? Yes, sir.
Still got my mind stuck on like how to let go of our previous identity to forge a new one.
Oh, the reinvention? We want to go back to the reinvention? Well, you have to have you have to sit back and realize there has to be some moment. You have to have a rock bottom moment when you're like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I hate being a garbage man and I want to be a lawyer. There is some moment where you're sitting there and you realize that. And now the difference is a lot of people will say that, but they won't do anything about it. You know, so there's a difference. Like lions know that they want to be different and they're willing to do something about it. Sheep do not care about being different. They want to be like other people and they don't care if they're slaughtered, sheared, you know, pulled and prodded, poked, whatever, you know. So that's the difference, is you have to find something. There has to be some moment where you've decided that you can't be who you are anymore.
I was just wondering how to make that easier because...
Well, that's what this process is built for. I mean, if you do all these things, you will find it. Now, I can't tell you when it'll be. I can't tell you how long it'll take. I can't tell you what will come out of it. But what I can tell you is if you do this, it will happen.
And how do I know like which of the people I should let go of? Because I'm happy with the circle and the people I met, and they all...
You may be, but what if the person, let's say, here's a great example. You're going to law school right now, and you're hanging around a bunch of people that are going to law school, right? You like hanging around with them, right? Okay. Well, you go through some brutally tough class, and you're sitting there thinking, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. There's something in your brain that tells you, you know, why am I doing this? You know, and then that's the moment. There are signals that come in your head that will tell you something isn't right. And that will eventually affect you emotionally, that will affect you physically, it will affect you mentally, and eventually get to the point where you're going to flatline. So if you feel like you flatline, then that's the moment. And then now you have to go through this process and now analyze everything, which, you know, may be good or bad.
Right.
So do you feel like you're at that moment? Have you flatlined?
Maybe for one of my friends, but I won't get into detail.
Sure, absolutely. You do not have to do that.
Probably for one, it's just, she helped me toughen up.
Sure.
And help me be more mentally
Sure.
resistant to other people.
But you need to know what your mission is. If you don't know what that is, you can't tell me whether being around her is good for you or not good for you. You just don't know. I mean, maybe she is good for you, maybe she isn't good for you. I mean, you have to figure that out. But I can tell you, if you do these steps, you will know.
All right, gotcha.
And so, like, what's so neat about this, and I know that I'm just about out of time, is that when you know what your mission and purpose is, and you know who you should be around with and who you shouldn't be around with, it is very easy to cut people in your circle. So if I don't like how something is going at my job, I say I'm done, and I'll walk out. And I don't have any hesitation. I don't worry about, well, you know, maybe I should stay around, you know, to see how this goes. I say, this doesn't align with my goals and mission. I'm out of here. And it doesn't matter what it is. Now, generally speaking, I try to at least, you know, make certain. Now, I don't try to make rash decisions about, you know, because then there's some EQ component related to that. But if I know, if there is something that continuously tells me, Kirby, this doesn't align with your mission, Kirby, this doesn't align with your mission, it's time to cut it and get out. And go do something different. Do something different, get rid of your circle, make changes. Something has to be different to make sure it aligns with what you believe. Yes. Anything else? Any other thoughts, comments, feedback? Was this helpful or valuable? That'll be $300. Sorry, just didn't mean to tell you that. We've got to cover inflation, price increases, and all that stuff. Nothing's free anymore. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, gas is $8 a gallon. No, yeah, sorry, nothing's free. Just kidding.
Thank you very much for sharing. I think, you know, from if I think about this from an interpersonal standpoint, we talk a lot about understanding our identity, our values, and the things that shape us and who we are. So this process really helps us to see, like, how our identity, like, who we are. And taking that time to reflect on that is something I think a lot of us fail to do, right? We don't really carve out the opportunity for us to say, like, who am I, and do I like the path I'm on? And so having a process for that and having encouragement in that process, I think, is really important. And then like bumping that off of people who are going to help us to refine that in a way that's helpful to us, right? So I think that it aligns in a lot of ways with the things in our classes, and being able to communicate that effectively to others so that they can receive and know, right, how to get on with your mission, or they might even, be able to help you with that too. So thank you very much.